Imagine a city where everyone is given equal opportunities in life, a place where inclusion is automatic and safety isn't an issue. The infrastructure is futuristic and all the cars are electric. Sounds like heaven on earth, right? Well, what if I told you that an American billionaire is hell-bent on building that heaven on earth as we speak? On this episode of Built a Billion, we uncovered the brand new American city named Telosa that aims to set the bar for urban living around the globe. And stay till the end to hear about the new concept this city created called equitism that will ensure free education and healthcare for all its residents. And if you love to hear about all the mega projects of the world, please subscribe to the channel and help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. A new idea for an American city in the middle of a desert was announced by billionaire Mark Lore in September of 2021, shortly after he stepped down as president of Walmart.
The mission of Telosa is the name of the city that we're going to build of 5 million people, likely in the desert. The sort of idea came from not wanting to build a city. It was really trying to test a new model for society, one that's more equitable and sustainable.
It was to be called Telosa and be a model of sustainability for future generations. The name comes from the ancient Greek word telos, which means higher purpose. And Mark Lore intends for the city to reach its higher purpose by combining the best parts of different cities around the world. Telosa will ideally be as diverse as New York, as efficient as Tokyo, and adapt the governance models applied by Stockholm, making it, in theory, the fairest and most inclusive city on the planet. This is a city where the needs of the people will serve as its foundation. A Danish architect by the name of Bjarke Ingels has taken the reins on conceptualization for the city and is the mastermind on how everything will play out.
Bjarke, who's the founder of BIG, expressed an incredible passion for this project.
Telosa, in my mind, sort of embodies the kind of social and environmental care of a kind of Scandinavian culture and the kind of freedom and opportunity of a more American culture.
Construction will be split into 2 phases. The first phase would house 50,000 residents on 1,500 acres with all amenities by 2030, and it would cost $25 million. The second phase hopes to result in a population increase to 5 million over the course of 40 years. When it's all said and done, the total cost of the project is expected to be around $400 billion. But Mark Lore won't have to worry about footing the majority of the bill. It would be funded largely by private investors, grants, and subsidies. Digital renderings so far show visuals of green residential buildings and several open spaces to be built in the first phase. And among these structures is the Equitism Tower. This will be a skyscraper with elevated water reservoirs and an energy-producing photovoltaic roof. It will undoubtedly serve as the beacon for the city. In addition, you'll have your educational institutes, healthcare centers, cultural centers, and stores, all surrounded by lush landscapes and railways. The city aims to improve the quality of its citizens' lives while protecting the environment simultaneously. This includes an urban design that will give residents access to all workplaces and schools within 15 minutes of their home, regardless of where they live. Fossil fuel vehicles will be banned to make room for autonomous electric cars, bikes, and old-fashioned walking. But for those who are driving cars, they'll be restricted to the superblocks, a new innovative concept from Telosa. Here, vehicular traffic is restricted to roads on the outside, leaving the streets within the city free for pedestrians and cyclists, reducing noise pollution. The other benefit of this are more open spaces for people to commune, talk, and just be people. Like most ambitious futuristic cities, Telosa promotes eco-friendly architecture and sustainable energy production. Even though Telosa is an urban city, there will be plenty of native plants and green spaces to go around. The focus in Telosa will be reuse and recycling, and natural resource extraction will be frowned upon. Aeroponic farms will grow produce to be sold locally, and every single building is designed to have rooftop panels that will generate renewable energy. The city will also feature an underground movement system to safely and cleanly transport waste. Telosa has many innovative ideas that have never been done, but perhaps the most interesting among them is the concept of equitism. Too often, inhabitants of a city do not directly benefit from their city's economic growth. In this system, coined equitism, Telosa would retain ownership of the land, with anyone still being able to build or sell homes. As the city grows, so would the land value, and the profits would funnel back into the Telosa Foundation. This would in turn go towards equal access for healthcare, good schools, safe streets, and transportation, which would create prosperity that everyone can share in. But how does Mark Lore envision the government of his dream city? The answer is 100% transparency. All government meetings and financial decisions would be made in the open to ensure complete transparency, with only the best interests of its citizens at heart. The location of Telosa has not yet been finalized, but the plan is for it to be constructed somewhere in the US's western region and boast a size of 150,000 hectares. Early candidates include Arizona, Nevada, Texas, Idaho, and even Utah. Once the location is set, however, sustainable construction will begin. All this sounds amazing, so why the desert? Do the developers want this to fail? Well, one answer is that there's a bunch of cheap and undeveloped land in the western desert, but that still doesn't make it necessarily smart on its own. Saudi Arabia's line project delays have shown that building a city from scratch in the desert requires lots of energy in a very harsh climate. So let's be honest, building a city in the desert sounds likely to fail and not very sustainable. For instance, there's likely to be an insufficient water supply, so Telosa's citizens would all have to use 80% less water. The city plans to fix this by capturing and recycling groundwater for multiple uses and store it in reservoirs, but groundwater is non-renewable. This may work presently, but in 100 years will pose a serious problem. Aside from the desert locale, there's the issue of the $400 billion price tag. It's not easy to convince the government or private investors to lend you billions for something that might not work.
So look, I would say that I have built a multi-billion-dollar company. I'm familiar with a lot of even young billionaires, know a lot of them. I think they're lost. They're fundamentally lost. Once they've made their first set of achievement in the private sector, they want to have an impact. They don't know how to have an impact, and they do silly, trivial things like this.
Problems like these have attracted to the project many detractors, but this hasn't ruffled Mark Lore's feathers one bit, and Telosa is still the city of the future in his head. But what about yours? Is this just another desert failure? Let me know in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and then click that video on the screen to watch something you haven't seen. And thanks for visiting Built a Billion.